Welcome everyone to the GSL Season 1 2023 Finals, or some order of that. In the bottom left, defeating Bjorn 3-2 to make it here, it is Kier. In the top right of altitude, defeating Bunny 3-1 to get here, it is Maru. Both players showing their prowess in TvT by defeating their TvT opponents, right? It was a top 4 Terran hullabaloo. And surprisingly, the games have been kind of unique. We absolutely could have had 17 TvTs that all looked, you know, boring. Slightly different. One player goes for 2 Reapers, the other guy goes for 5. One person sneaks in a 1-Rex expand, the other one goes for a factory, you know, it's always so different. Instead, for all of these series, apparently this one as well, we're getting some really different builds from the openers. And then I think most people are kind of happy with how TvT plays out in the mid-game when we have those Marines running around and Ravens and tanks. I think most people find that dynamic. It's really the opening. And so the openings having such extremes as a command center first is a real curveball to be thrown in here. I would have 100% not guessed that this was going to happen, not once, but 3 times so far in the semis and finals of the GSL. Kier did it once versus Bunny. Maru did it once versus... Kier did it versus Bjorn. Maru did it versus Bunny. It does not help that their opponents both start with B. And now Kier is doing it again versus Maru. Maru actually thinking that he's getting away with something to start the series off on the biggest map, and that's a 1-Rex expand. He's probably chuckling himself all like, you know, kind of evil chuckle, right? Getting away with something, and it's actually Kier who's getting away with a lot more. So I don't know what happens when this happens, actually. I've always said that we have about a 2-worker lead for a factory expand versus a 1-Rex expand. But I actually don't know what the lead is for a command center first versus a 1-Rex expand. I imagine it's similar. Is it going to be 2 SCVs? Maybe? I don't know. Well, it might not be if this Reaper of Maru gets some damage done here with obviously not a whole lot of Reaper action. Got 2 Marines that are having trouble chasing it down, so that's 1 SCV kill from Maru, who also, by the way, knows it's command center first at this point and goes, ah. But I am not seeing a worker lead. In fact, I see nothing but downsides. This is going to be some weird thing that we learn in the GSL finals so that a 1-Rex expand beats a command center first. Kind of feels like we're learning this. Kier still has a 1.5 worker lead, but the Reaper is such a bully. And there's no way for Kier to know if his opponent's gone for a factory expand or 1-Rex expand, so he's respecting the possibility of a 2nd Reaper and a Hellion showing up. And him having to respect it because he tried to get away with the greediest opener possible, command center first, Marine, and no SCV scout. There we go. That's the other one. He had to delay so much of his mining. So this is still favoring Kier, I suppose, but it's definitely not as obvious as when Maru command center first against Bunny's factory expand. I mean, there was a legit 6-7 worker difference. This is, well, much more ambiguous. Maru's only behind by 1 worker. That's easy to tell. Numbers, am I right? But the possibilities for Maru feel a little bit stronger because Maru is actually getting some units to go attack with, where Kier, I mean, he is just defending, and defending it go perfectly. You can perfectly defend, and more power to you. But the aggressor, I think, kind of has the ability to make those moves, take those risks, and hopefully not even be punished for it, right? If Maru takes a risk by trying to do a drop, but then make sure to have boost for the retreats, okay, boost in, so that's not gonna happen, then he might be fine doing this. But he boosted in, so he probably will lose his medevac. How did he not lose that medevac? That auto turret was so freaking close. The medevac lives. Ah! I mean, he didn't kill very much, so I would say it's still not very worth it, but kind Kind of amazing that Maru's medevac lived, isn't it? But the other thing is that Kira actually went for a second barracks here. So Maru did not get a lot with that drop, but what he got is invaluable information. Invaluable? Valuable information. He got really valuable information. He got the scouts on a prioritized... Oh, wait, did he? Wait a minute, this is confusing. Hold on here. A little bit of Raven harassment from Maru also coming down. His third CC is much faster, but it is because Kier delayed his third CC for the second barracks, and I'm still trying to figure out if Maru has figured out that it's 2 barracks or not, because this scout is so weird. I'm not sure that he did. Because he had to go so far behind. I don't think he actually saw that there was 2 barracks in play. That just looks like the first barracks. And that, you know, that lifted. So that's a little weird. That's going to be a little bit of a shock. If Maru knew for a fact there was 2 barracks, he would be wary of a faster stim, a more aggressive cure, someone who's going to try and hit him with medevac drops, you know, very quickly, but also commonly, just over and over and over again, and Maru would play a little more reserved. But if Maru doesn't know, then he might do his thing, his double medevac drop, but of course his will be later, because he went for a faster third command center. So it's a little... Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. Maru's still behind by 1 worker, but his, his triple orbital already being done is probably helping out his economy. Yeah, he's winning right now in the economy. He is playing defensive, so maybe that is enough of a scout.
Ready for dust off.
Again, it just looks like this barracks lifted. So I don't know in what order he scouted what, but he so far is taking a defensive stance, not grabbing his third CC particularly quickly. He might be saying, I actually don't know what my opponent's doing. I basically did not get enough of a scout to confidently say either way, so I'm going to play defensive, in which case I think that is smart. I think that's going to help him. 2 medevacs were headed into Maru's main, but Cure, actually seeing as there was a little bit of defense, decides not to go for it. He's going to try and blitz into a third base, taking too soon. But Maru, as I've just been saying, is playing defensive, and I think it's because he doesn't really know what his opponent's doing. He knows that he's got 16 Marines and 2 Ravens on the other side of the map not helping back at home, so he's not going to risk taking a third CC as well, which means that Kier's drop is very ineffective, and Maru's drop is effective. There you go. Auto turrets come down from Maru's Ravens. However, Kier's army did finally return back onto the main base to help defend this. If it was just the 1 tank and a handful of Marines, this could have gotten really messy, but Kier respected the potential and pulled the rest of his army up at home. It looks like he also did that knowing that he's probably not going to be attacked on the fronts. If Kier was scared of Maru having 3 tanks and 6 Marines pushing towards the front, he doesn't move his army back like that, but you know, he wasn't scared. This double medevac drop at least giving him some type of map presence, a little bit of scouting too. He did see that third command center land. Unfortunately, couldn't punish it because Maru waited so long to take it, he had the defense for it. Now, I've been kind of suggesting that Maru's playing a very smart game, and I think that is still true, but I don't want it to be twisted in that he's actually winning this game, because he's not necessarily. We'll get into that in a second. Another drop from Maru, the same drop coming in, takes care of the Cyclone. We'll go after... I thought I was going to go after... Oh, the medevac from before! It comes back in! 3 Marines going for the kills, guys. That's why you don't lose units. The unit retention's so important, all right? 3 Marines and a medevac just helped kill so many more SCVs. These 2 medevacs are once again parked into the corner, and Kier just cannot get this monkey off his back, man. I mean, he's supposed to be the one that's doing a little bit in return. I mean, I would say he's the one that's supposed to be doing this, all right? And instead, Kier is the one that can't find any openings. And so I'll go back to what I was about to discuss, which is who is actually ahead. And now, at this point, I guess it is Maru. But before that, he was down in workers. And the army supply, I think, was a bit more even. And what I was going to point out, though, is that once again, seems consistent with Maru, is that he has faster upgrades. So, yeah, his economy at one point was worse. His upgrades were about 30 seconds faster. Now, they're not affecting this particular battle, but what is affecting it is Kier barely saves those 2 tanks. It's just the fact that Kier wasn't expecting it. All of his tanks unsieged. Maru diving on top of them, given the chance. will respect the siege up. That is 5 and a 6 tank on the high ground looking to defend the 3rd. So that's going to be a tough nut to crack. Another drop goes back into the natural. That's going to get taken down, and this medevac is basically dead. So not much found there. And the game does calm down once again. But at this point in time, I can confidently say Maru is just ahead. He has faster 4th Command Center, faster 2-2 upgrades, more army supply, more workers. Everything is going well for Maru. No question about that. But there was definitely some questions earlier on. Maru getting his own missile turret line as well as reinforcing to the main. He's really wary of the attacks to the main because it's altitude. And if there's one thing Terran knows is how other Terrans will abuse the drops. They do it in TvP. They even sometimes do it in TvZ. They'll certainly do it in TvT. There is a lot of dead space on altitude. They're trying to come in from that natural again, so maybe even just basically surprise Cure. You know, he's not really bombarding the main, but honestly, Cure is just expecting everything at once. He's like, I'm going to defend the main, I'm going to defend the natural, and I'm going to defend my 3rd base. And you know what? Since he's maxing out, he can do that. So Cure is playing the defensive game for sure, but it's working out for him so far. He's not that far behind. Whoops-a-daisy, sorry. That is a decent amount of army dropping out of the medevacs. The would-be drop becoming an attack, but once it becomes an attack, it is just going to be down to numbers, right? It's not about finding Cure out of position. It was just about trying to take on a much bigger army than yourself. Didn't really work out, but then Maru picked up some units and once again hit the natural. He actually, what he did there was pulled Cure's natural defense army away. So he opened up the opportunity to drop into the natural. He was also looking to pull the 3rd base defense away. So that's why he did that kind of weird drop attacks, because his army was moving off to the left side. And even though it felt like it really wasn't worth it, it's kind of made all of the room here. 5 SCVs go down, and once again, triple medevac tucked into the corner. I mean, it's literally only 3 Marines, but still. Cure has to respect while also being on guard on the front lines. Maru's going to go for the break. He's disabled 4 of the tanks. Now 3 of them are still firing away, and Maru's numbers of Marines is not particularly impressive. But what he is doing is allowing his own tanks to win out the war so that he can advance on further. Cure's trying to defend multiple locations while also taking his 4th Command Center, which has been much more of an ordeal for Cure than it was for Maru, who has been on a 4th Command Center as an orbital. That is how confident he is in this game, that he will continue to just keep Cure under his thumb. And so far, so good. Maru might have dipped down in the army supply, possibly due to the loss of the 3 medevacs in the main, but he is the one that is still pressuring Cure. He still has an upgrade lead as well with that attack upgrade that could impact one of these upcoming battles. Cure is trying to defend with just mainly tanks at home, sends a lot of his Marines off to the side, and when tanks are in this high of a number, you can do this. 8 tanks for Cure defending against Maru's 10, trying to find an attack. Maru did just pump out a few more, which he will need to defend back at home, but right now it is Maru trying to break Cure for the nth time. Second time through this choke. Doesn't quite work out, but he is picking away at some of the tanks. There's the attack from Cure that I was alluding to, ripping through that 3rd base SCV line. 20 SCVs go down. The orbital will also fall before those tanks are siege up to defend it. There you have it. Cure with the run by takes down the orbital command and finally gets something to say in this game. Otherwise, it's been a lot of whispers from Cure. He kind of does something, he kind of does this or that, but it's not really been hugely impactful. Now finding something actual impactful is good stuff for Cure, who even manages to escape with 2 medevacs almost full of units. Maru going for his own drop because, of course, it's TvT. Drop, 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 drop. But this one is well defended as Cure races back to the main to defend. Has his tank still defending his 3rd, although not quite. Tank from Cure not positioned to help out against the 3rd. You can see that Maru is just letting him shell, so his tank shell away there. Oh my god, Maru was losing his main orbital as well. I guess he thought Cure had run away and Cure came back, but fortunately the SCV repair is good. It's alright. It's all good. 2 tanks from Maru left alone. Cure actually sees that and takes advantage of it. Maru maybe starts to... I was gonna say is maybe losing some control, but obviously just, you know, he's more focused on ensuring this 3rd base has to be lifted. 12 SCVs went down, but both of them have been replacing SCVs at certain times. Still very even on that. A collapse from Cure on top of Maru's retreat. Maru, quick to identify, does pick up and tries to run away. I don't know how successful the runaway will be, though. That is a lot of army for Cure, and Cure has an upgrade lead. His +3 armor was more well-timed than Maru's was, so that could have been very scary. However, Cure decides it's too many tanks to actually take on, instead commits to perhaps his first idea, which was to run across the map, and Maru did not anticipate this. Absolutely nothing left back at home. Maru off to the left side with his army, right side as well. Now returns home as he realizes, wait a second, that army that was collapsing in on me just went for a base race, and now Maru is in a ton of trouble. Only one tank on the high ground. No, two actually. One where the orbital used to be. That is an overstimmed army for Cure that tries to force itself up the ramp. So many Marines killed. Trying to get on top of this production. It does, but this one tank is still a real threat, to be honest. And Cure's army that's left over is no longer that impressive after all those Marines went down. He races to defend the tanks from the low ground Maru defense, which is always weird to say, but he can't defend him. He will eventually be cleaned up. That said, Maru did take 28 SCVs worth of damage. So he is down in the worker counts, but he is the one with another base kind of secretly off to the left side. He's kept his bases mostly intact and actually had one more. Whereas Cure obviously lost one, and then it still has not been gotten back to mining on one of them either. He is totally prepared, however, for the drop into the main base, not going to let Maru get on top of his production, and this game still remains scarily even. So much so that I'm running out of words. 15, almost 16 minutes of constant action. I'm starting not to be able to keep up, my bad. But finally things calm down. I can take a breather. Woof. And we can once again kind of just look at the actual facts, the data. Cure's fourth base, something that he desperately needs, is about to be shelled at, which, for 16 minutes it's been able to get away with mining. Now it has to mass repair to buy time. Cure does not know about Maru's fourth and the fact that it is an orbital. He probably assumes that it exists, but he doesn't know it's an orbital, so he's not sent just a simple Marine hit squad over there. He's trying to defend the planetary, realizing that he kind of has to, and he will be able to break this just barely. And he will be able to take down Maru's tanks, which is certainly a reward there. But Cure is so far down in the mining aspects. You can look at these numbers here, and it's just atrocious that he cannot replace fast enough. Meanwhile, Maru replacing that much faster and actually going immediately across the map does meet Cure's defensive tanks and defensive Liberator. And since we're on such a low unit count, one Liberator actually greatly impacting these battles. If only Cure knew that his opponent gotten away with so much greed. 2 orbitals ripe for the picking that Cure does not know about. Seriously, 4 Marines running across, just la-di-da across altitude, would do so much damage. And Cure is probably giving Maru the benefit of the doubt, saying that he's got a planetary just like I do. Maru doesn't have one. It's weak. He's getting another scan, another mule every time as well. And that might actually be what kills Cure. I see, again, struggles to get the same economy as his opponent. Maru's third base has landed with a bit more minerals to mine from than Cure's, which has also finally landed, but is very temporary. We have some long-distance mining going on as Cure lifts, I guess, another orbital somewhere from, I guess that was his main, over to the 5th, and now he has a vulnerable spot as well. But now that Cure is on Maru's side of the map, the script has been flipped. Now it is Cure looking for the break. He's not going to find it, however, and his tanks are on siege. Maru, oh nope, I was wrong. Whoopsie-daisy, bad camera work. 3 tanks were siege up there for Cure, so Maru could not break that. And Cure is the one aggressing, so now he's the one that might be able to get away with a cheeky orbital over to the left side. I just so wish that Cure had sent just a Marine over to the left. Oh, this is so vulnerable. Maru's getting away with so much. In fact, if you really take a look at this game overall, 18 minutes in, and imagine Maru not getting away with that, Cure has won this game 10 times over, no? He might still be winning it. He jumped on top of 2 tanks that weren't properly defended, and Maru is starting to lose control over his third. It's not as important as Cure's third was, but it is still a lot of mining that he had. I guess he could... What is he going to do? Take the gold? I mean, I guess he could. Like, why not? It's better than nothing. But currently just waiting for the army of Cure to disengage. He's going to go through the middle of the map to try and force that disengage. But now he sees that the Doom Drop heading to the main base. Does he have enough to actually stop it? I guess he does. That was like 9 medevacs. And Cure said, you know what? A couple of Marines and a Viking, not going to be for me. I think he gave a lot of credit to Maru's army returning to the main base. But it's actually not all of Maru's army. Cure didn't realize that Maru had sent most of his Marines across the map. Now he realizes it, but already losing the orbital command, losing his defensive setup. His tank's still too vulnerable as Maru actually goes for the split. Nope. 2 tanks will hold on, and Cure will hold on to his tank count and his army count in total, up by 40. He didn't get that Doom drop that, again, might have been possible, but he has an overwhelming army lead. Maru now racing to defend those very vulnerable bases. Finally, Kieran realizes there is a 5th as an orbital. He is going to go ahead and punish that. The 4th will also be in trouble very soon. Maru not getting the benefit of that potential trade. His Marines going through the middle of the map did not work out well for him, and now Kieran is knocking on the front door of Maru's very important mining bases. 12 tanks of Cure. How do you beat that? How do you beat that? Maru does not have the army to defeat 12 tanks. He could try and build up the Viking counts, but with how wide open the map is, how much this has gone just all over the place since they both mined out their main 3 bases, Maru is not going to get an easy fight. He's not going to get something where he can just slowly siege up a Liberator and kill Kier's tanks. No, it's going to be way too actiony for that. So Maru instead tries to basically continue with the action, right? He's trying to throw Marines across the map while holding on to bases with his tanks, and that is usually perfect, but it's only so perfect when you're down 40 army supply. So it's still a good idea, of course, but, you know, Maru can't really find much success, and this is where Kier having a planetary as his 4th base is actually really, really great. You know, for a while, he was the sucker. He was the fool. He was the one that was defending a 4th base with a planetary, and Maru was getting 2 orbitals, sneak off to the left. But now, it means that Maru's desperate Marine rushes through the middle of the map cannot break the planetary. He's gonna need tanks to do that. What they could be breaking is a 5th base orbital, but wrong armies in the wrong locations, right? Maru's tanks and Marines will, of course, dislodge this orbital, because Cure didn't have enough to defend it, but, you know, you kind of wanted tanks hitting the planetary, and then just Marines to take care of this, right? Maru is forcing Cure to disengage from the mining. So, I mean, they both are just very, very poor. But Cure has held on to his army. That is the difference. Maru is now at almost half the army supply of Cure, and that is not with a lot of tanks. If he had half the army supply, but he had 7 tanks, there's still hope. But he is Marine versus Marine, and just less Marines than his opponent. And less tanks, of course, as well. So unless Cure makes the biggest mistake ever, the biggest throw of his career, he will win this game. And you know what? Maru is going to let him have it. After a grueling 22 minutes game, Cure finally finds victory. GG. Damn. Whew, what a battle. What a battle. I'm tired, man. Can't imagine what these players are feeling, because they played the semifinals and the finals the same day. All right, let's see if their energy can keep up. Scan number 2 coming at you. After a long, very back and forth, very tiring game number 1, we move on to Dragon Scales. In the top left, up 1, it is Cure. And in the bottom right, we do have Maru. If you guys would love to support the Korean scene, you know they're having some troubles, as GSL has been severely cut in the funding. You can support them. Patreon.com/GSL. Get yourself some of these replays, behind-the-scene interviews, things called player cards that I don't actually know what that means, but I'm sure it's great. And in general, just supporting your favorite players. So, for instance, like Maru, who is typically... not typically, but well known for the 2 racks, is once again going for the 2 racks. It's not totally in proxy, just the 1 in proxy, but he is hoping to get the better trade on the Reaper Micro if his opponent is going for a factory expand, which Cure is, or straight up find his opponent weak if Cure is trying to be greedy and go for a 1 racks expand or a command center first, which, you know, is what he did last game. I kind of forgot that, to be honest, after 23 minutes, but that is how the last game started. Command center first versus 1x expand. But they both are severely changing it up. So theoretically, Cure's fine against this. He's actually scouting for a proxy 2 racks. I guess he won't find it. But as long as his Reaper is well controlled, should be fine. Oh, he's gonna find it. Just kidding. He nailed it. 100%. Nailed it. So he can't stop it from building, but what he can do is have his Reaper better controlled because of it. And that's really the most important thing. I was actually going to look up their Ligulac score before the real fireworks started. We're almost there to the fireworks. I'd say at this point, Maru, with knowing that he is scouted, knows that he's in a little bit of trouble, but he's going to Beyond it up. He's going to go for a proxy factory as well. This is something that Beyond did against Cure. Right? Yes, and it was effective, but I'll talk about why it was effective in 1 second. Right now, we're just watching the Reapers dance around. Cure with a great SEV pool, and so far not losing a single SEV, has a pretty perfect defense against this. Currently up by about 1.5 SEVs. So here's the thing. Oh my gosh, and Cure's doing it again too. The reason that Beyond ended up getting ahead in that game where he 2-racks 1 proxy into Proxy Factory is because he expanded first. I know that's a weird sentence. That seems like a jump in logic, but he expanded first. He contained Cure, who has to respond to what he now knows is a real potential, by the way. So versus Beyond, I think he got like a last-second scout or something on it as he went aggressive against the 2 Reapers. But in this case, I think he just knows it's a possibility. So he's playing a 1-1-1 setup. He's not factory expanding. He's going all the way up to the 1-1-1. He kind of has to do this if his opponent is being aggressive with his own proxy, because imagine if Cure tries to fit a command center in and Maru is building the production right in his face. It's difficult. But then, as the Reapers actually enter into the main, and they're in a pretty fine number. That is a lot of Reapers. The Reapers might still win this game, weirdly enough. I think they might. The Reaper's pretty good unit. 7 SCVs go down. Make that more? Nah, he's gonna skedaddle. Nope, there we go. 8 go down. Okay, that pretty much won the game. All right, I feel like I'm just like not even gonna bother analyzing this anymore. Maru breaks a Reaper from home across the map. The TLDR is that Cure defended 1-1-1 thinking that he had to, but then he over-defended. He didn't get a fast enough command center. It's happening again. Cure lost 8 SCVs, and he's later to the command center. So even if Maru's contain doesn't contain for very long or doesn't find any more damage, Maru has already made, an advancement for him. He is ahead. He would have been ahead, I think, even without those 8 SCV kills. The only problem would have been if Cure had been able to break out and immediately counterattack. Because, of course, Maru's production is in a very vulnerable location. But clearly, Cure isn't running out of his own base anytime soon. There is a Banshee that has appeared, but no cloak available, and 2 Vikings here for Maru. I mean, the Banshee is kind of useless. This is what he did versus Beyond last time, wasn't it? He also went for a Banshee. That sounds very familiar. The barracks from home being used to just get that scout, ensure that Maru always has the high ground vision. At this rate, his units will literally be on the high ground, so it's not even necessary anymore. Cloak is finally done, and Maru is still only working off of 1 orbital, so there's not many scans, but he was holding on to them once he figured out that his opponent was going into Banshees. So that's his 1. There will not be another for some time. And the Banshee did successfully fly away, so this will eventually be broken, but the damage has already been done. Cure has lost so many SCVs, all on 1 base, by the way. Still no natural command center, and he's behind 12 workers. The only chance he has is to immediately counterattack and, hope that Maru doesn't have enough production, because he's lifted it. That's possible. Kills a tank there, too. That's really nice. But it's still a very tall ask. Cure is in such a terrible position. He is almost purely dependent on these Banshees. And, Maru is getting a Raven. That's logical. That makes sense. I love that he's getting a Hellion, by the way. That's kind of weird, but I like it. So why not? It's something. Sure. Now adding a tech lab to his factory, which will remain proxied, apparently. He's not in too big of a hurry to bring it home. It is a bit of a conundrum. You know that Cure is pretty desperate, might go to it for an attack, so you just try and pump out as many units as possible before your proxy is destroyed. And you give Cure another obstacle to tackle by having the proxy still being proxied. Does Cure clean up the proxy and clear out Maru's production? Or does he try to immediately counterattack? Well, both options aren't working, as the Raven Viking squad takes care of the Banshees, no problem. They will take care of further Banshees, no problem. Cure's supply still looks relatively good, but this really is a lie. The soup does in fact lie. Maru is in a much, much, much better position. Still up 10 workers. At this rate, the Viking Raven squad. The Banshees, yeah, can hope for 5 SCVs. That's pretty nice. 5 SCVs, probably the most that any further Banshee would get. One more is available. The Banshees are also looking to distract. If they can get the air squad out of the way, then that might mean that Kira's ground attack can be a little stronger. I don't know how much stronger, but something. Oh, Kira is going to try and make this into a 2 starport build. I do like this. But once again, Maru with just a couple of tricky units. 3 Reapers go into the main base and will deal equal amounts of damage to that Banshee, perhaps even more, as they take out some of the Hellions too. Yep, 6 SCVs killed and a Hellion. So the reason I like what Kira's doing is because I feel like he's doing something that might still fit into this power surge he still has. The adrenaline that's still pumping through him, you know? It's about to wear off. His economy simply cannot stand up to Maru's in a longer game. But temporarily, it's giving him the necessary minerals and gas to build up a decent army. So he's adding on a second starport, saying that this is going to be the only thing that's fast enough to still be kind of worthwhile to do. He goes into more barracks. It's not going to build up a marine count fast enough to be scary. He goes into mech. It's just, you know, Maru is going to outpace him really quickly. So this is the only thing that really has a strong follow-up that is still quick enough to take advantage of, again, the remaining power surge that Kira still has before his production and income just falls off a freaking cliff. So I do like it. Kira's a smart guy, but Maru, he got a scout on it. So he knows that that is his intention and now can play around it. But he was also already building Vikings. He never stopped. So his Viking count's really not that far behind. And he could still continue to emphasize this if he really wanted to, because he knows how desperate Kira is. He is not going to go for a second starport. Instead, he will just play out the longer game. I mean, both are long games, I suppose. But he's basically going to try and find enough Marines to break out. He's not going to just try and straight up win the Viking War. Which, with the whole defense advantage thing, he actually might have been able to do. But his choice is to wait out Kira's attack. So one that requires a lot of time. Kira has to slowly siege hop forward. And then go for his flyby of Ravens and Vikings to truly create a one base all-in scenario for Kira. So it's already pretty much that. His natural's not mining very much. But now it's really it. One Cyclone surprisingly effective with its range, but so many SCVs are going down. Again, Maru ensuring that this attack is Kira's only attack in the entire game. Maru playing out a very patient game. There's not really a vulnerability in what he's doing. Oh, Jesus. Oh, these SCPs dying, man. Because the army of Kira, the one thing it's bad at is jumping on top of stuff. It can't blitz. It sieges. So the SCVs get pulled with the Marines simming up here, with their combat shields as well. The tanks are still alive, but the Vikings are gone, and the Marines are left over, and that is that. Maru will get a point on the board as well, and tie up the best of 7 series. Now tied up 1-1 in the bottom right of Gresvan. We do have Onside Gaming's Maru. And in the top left, as the Blue Terran, we do have Cure, who I believe is playing for DKZ? No, he's playing for Abydos, that's right. He's one of the ones picked up in that kind of ragtag group of players, creating a team. What does it stand for again? Just the players that are on it? I don't know what the heck it stands for, actually. But technically on Abydos, at least representing in the WTL. Anyhow. So, Cure not able to defend the proxy 111 off of the 2 racks. Seems to be a legit problem for him. Now, I think it's just not possible to do that same build over and over and over again. At the end of the day, it is a cheese, and the more that Cure knows 100% you're going to do it, the more that it's likely to fail. But Cure has not handled that situation very well twice now. in 2 different series, 2 different players. So it's like a little bit of a vulnerability, and an entire best of 7 with so many games left to play. Maru could bring that out again, especially if he's already in the lead. If he gets up 3-1 and he's looking for something to end the series, he could do that again, and it might be really effective. Because Kira just looks awkward against it. But that would also maybe be taking away some of the respect that you need to give Cure, which is that, okay, he gets surprised by it once in a series, but probably is capable of figuring out how to defend it. Cure is, at the end of the day, a smart guy and a good player and a great TvT player. So to assume that he would actually have such a severe weakness might be, yeah, not giving him the respect he deserves. So, yeah, we'll see. I personally would not mind Maru 3-1 position going for the proxy 2 racks 1-1-1 all in again, but we'll see. We will see. Maru might have to get those victories in the first place, which is not proving to be easy. This does not seem like a best of 7 series where Maru just raffle stomps his way into a 3-0 lead. Having already lost a game, that's, you know, a fact at this point. Kira is really trying to go toe-to-toe with him. Kira, as I've been saying, and I think we've all been saying for a while, is the closest competitor to Maru in TvT. However, that might not mean much. We've said it for 2 years at this point, I believe, so not this last Katowice, but the previous one. I think it was Wardy and I, because we always get those TvTs. A little bit of a scuffle here. Kira's 2 Reapers to just Maru's 1, so it's a little awkward. And it's good. 1 SCV died for Maru. But anyways, we were saying that, you know, okay, Kira might be one of the best possible candidates for defeating Maru here. And then Kira got stomped. But I don't think we were wrong. It's just that Maru is that much better. Maru is really perfection in TvT and close to being perfection in other matchups. His win rate in it, I think, still insanely high. Though not as high as it once was. I was saying I was going to look up their scores between each other before the action got heated. Finally, I will go ahead and do that, making sure I don't spoil the results for me. We do have, right, the last time they played, that's why Maru didn't get out in first place, is because Cure did actually win their best of 3 in the groups. It was a very heated best of 3, one which Maru, I think, was almost capable of winning, if I recall correctly. Cure kind of brought it back. But then before that, Maru. Oh, and then Kira again. A full year ago. Maru. There's a lot of Maru. That's what I'm trying to point out here. So Maru is he's just favored against every other Terran. He's favored against a lot of players. Almost every single player, in fact. The build orders for this game. Maru gone for a, I believe, 1-Rex expand again. High ground command center for safety, and then in the Hellions for further safety. Kira not really dedicating very much to early game harassment with Reapers and Hellions, that is. Just went for those 2 Reapers. Then went into double Cyclone. Medevac is here. 6 Hellions. Is that 8? Jeez Louise. 8 Hellions are going to try and tackle 2 Cyclones. And they might be right. My goodness. That Raven needs to get out of range. That was a little awkward. Maru thought he had gotten out of range and was wrong. I can't believe that a Hellion just took on a Cyclone. It does happen, apparently. Very unfortunate, too, because technically Cure had it in him to micro that Cyclone. He could have used his Medevac defensively, but I think it was just getting caught up in trying to go offensive. The Medevac was trying to pick up units and figure out when to bring, and it got kind of awkward fast. Because 2 Cyclones, still healthy and alive, can do a lot to help break someone who is very much depending on Hellions. And 2 Ravens to defend. That's it right now. Tanky is going to pop out before Cure is ready to go, but with Cure's Medevac, we still have the option of hitting both the main and the natural. So Maru's defense is still in question. He is down an army supply. The army supply he has is not particularly convincing. And Cure is looking to punish, dropping the main base with that Cyclone. Yep, it could have been 2. It could have been 2. And then attacking the natural with his 2 tanks. However, Maru was totally prepared for this, has his tank siege up there and 2 Ravens ready to go. Really a very nice split, I suppose, really, when you break it down. 1 Medevac cannot ferry enough units to take down the remaining Hellions. Hellions are almost laughable at this point, but they can do that. And then everything else you have can defend against the more fearsome units that are the tanks and Vikings. Double Raven gonna go forward, take out the tanks. They do disable them, but that's all they do. Kira's tanks will continue living. Meanwhile, Maru sacrificed a Raven just to dislodge that, which he might believe is worth it, but still, recognizing that he's in a pickle. Kira is going to be trying to hold on to this contain as long as possible. And it's working. It is working. Third CC on the way for Cure. Finished for Maru, but can't grab it anytime soon. Upgrades are farther ahead for Maru. Stim's already done for Maru. If Maru does hold, he will eventually have enough Marines to break out. But that is the question. Does Cure take down too many of Maru's tanks, Hellions, and SCVs? And does he actually push before Maru is ready to go? And the answer is yes. Cure with the landed Vikings takes down both of those tanks. 20 SCVs go down. Maru, frankly, getting a bit bopped. The reason he was so lackluster on the defense is that he had 16 Marines and Medivacs looking to fly across the map, thinking he was safe at home. He was wrong about that. Those Marines came back into an already dead home base. It was already gone. It was useless for them to come back. Maru loses his orbital command in the natural, and Cure is in a dominating position. I do not see him losing this game. He's got a tank sieged up. These Marines don't even have combat shields. Maru just could not buy enough time to get where he needed to be. And this tank bringing that count of Marines down to 0. And the tank lives. Salt in the wound, really. Maru still trying to play out this game is a bit surprising. This is one screwed Terran. And I know Maru can make comebacks happen, but it's always with a third base. And since he lost an orbital, he's only down to 2 guys. Those Marines are better. 1-1, stim, and combat shields. If he did, seriously, if he had a third CC, I'd give him a better chance of winning. But no third CC, and can he even break this particular hold? It looks like yes, he can. The SCV is helping out on the low ground. The Liberator not really helping out very much at all where she was positioned. And now, Cure is going to lose some of those Vikings on the retreat. So, okay, Cure does eventually get pushed back. But even though Maru, I guess, holds on to his second orbital, he lost his third, or vice versa, whatever you want to call it. And even if he hadn't, I mean, what if he has 3 orbitals? He's still down so many workers. 36 workers. That's a lot. Marines have to be pretty flipping good to make this comeback happen. Fortunately, Marines are pretty good, so there's still a chance. Half the supply of his opponents, but Cure can't respond as quickly without stim and combat shields. What Cure can do is not bother taking a third CC anytime soon, because who cares? He's so far ahead. And then how does Maru break a 2-base Terran? I'm not even sure he could break a 3-1. But he definitely can't break a 2. Supplies are as close as they'll probably ever be. I am looking at this red Medivac and just envisioning it dying. It's gonna die, it's gonna die, it's gonna die, it's gonna die. Okay, he moved it over to the left. And make sure that some of the other units soak up the damage. That was very much on purpose. Kudos to Maru for letting that tank Medivac survive. But still, might not be enough. Might not be enough. His Marines just could not get any wiggle room there. They all just went down. GG. Cure will take game number 3 in the fastest fashion yet. Yes. Very nicely done by Cure, who now leads the series once again in this best of 7. In the bottom right of Babylon now, it is Cure. In the top left, we have Maru, who is sending out an SCV yet again. Perhaps he has not to be ahead in the game to go for that, once again, proxy. Maybe I am onto something. Maybe I'm an Oracle. Maybe Cure is going to be straight up weak against the proxy 111. That's eventually what it goes into. I don't know. If it becomes a real thing, we'll probably think of a better term for this 2 racks into 111. But okay, no, it's second SCV's coming out, so it's just a straight up 2 racks. A little more. I feel like it's a little more honest, you know? Kind of. But it's a cheese. Certainly a cheese. Cure, hopefully, is going to go for a factory expand. If he does not, and he also does not SCV scout, he is supposed to take damage. He's going for the 1 racks expand. No. Uh-oh. The T-Racks? Is that what we'd call the 2 barracks proxy into the 111? I'd be down for that, the T-Racks. Whoops, it easy. Don't you love that our human bodies can just suddenly draw in air incorrectly? It's awesome. Kira is SCV scouting, but he is nonetheless doing one of the worst builds you can do against this. I guess the only thing worse than a 1-max expand would be a command center first. Maru is looking to cheese out Kira here to bring back the series, even it up. Will it work out? Kira scouts the lack of barracks and goes, oh shit. Builds a supply depot, builds a factory, builds a marine, builds a gas. All these things are usually happening at this point, and Kira is a bit... He's actually not... He's not reacting very quickly. Well, he didn't have enough gas, so the factory call was a bit premature, but I mean, you usually get the second gas. I guess it's arguable that you really need it. It is indeed arguable that you really need it. As long as you can get that, and your factory's not going to be any faster if you get a responsive second gas. It is what it is, and you don't really want to be building further Reapers because Marines pop out faster. And presumably, off of one gas, you can still afford a Cyclone or, of course, Hellions, which cost no gas. So yeah, I guess this does make sense. I was personally scared that he was underestimating this. With his SCV skill scouting around, maybe he thought that it was going to be a single proxy barracks and one at home. But it looks like calm and steady is working out. Maru not even really pulling the trigger at any point, too, by the way. Just accepting life, I suppose. Now he goes for it. 4 Reapers in the main base. They do all get up there, right? With a bit of the concave they're looking to get. 2 SCVs go down. Lock on that command center. Make that 3 SCVs. 4 SCVs seems inevitable. 4 Reapers still alive for Maru. Finally losing one. But the other one still barely alive. Even as you can see, Kira trying to target fire it. Also the barracks block. Oh my goodness, Maru. Your play is so sexy sometimes. Stop it. Stop it. 6 SCVs went down with that Reaper run by. Kira now behind by 4. That's exactly what Maru needed to get himself back into this game. Because otherwise it was looking like Maru was just doing absolutely nothing. Kira was getting away with everything. But how can I doubt Maru like that? He jumps once again back in. Actually misfires on the supply depot, so that depot doing something to help out. So far, this second run by of Reaper is not doing nearly as much, and only grabbing 2 SCVs, indeed, not nearly as much. But they weren't very useful for the remainder of the game anyways. Probably better to sacrifice them in the attempts to get another 6 workers. Maru is ahead by 6. His natural's finishing up as Kira still has yet to lift his over to his own natural. And Maru, where is he actually behind because of the opener? In the army supply. He did sacrifice those Reapers after all. But Reapers probably won't be necessary to the defense. More importantly, a Cyclone will pop out, then a tank. That'll be what defends against this army supply lead that Kira has. It's not really the best army supply lead. We're not talking about tanks and Cyclones. We're talking about Marines and Hellions. Which, at the end of the day, we're almost a faulty investment. They kind of failed at their job. They let the Reapers in to do a lot of SCV damage. You know, I absolutely do not blame Kira for doing this, for getting the Hellions. It just is funny because they failed at their job. They're failures. Now they're going to try and be offensive. A little offensive Hellion drop in TvT. Let's see if they can make up for their earlier failure. At the very least, they can stall out Maru's 3rd command center as Kira also starts up his. Worker count still drastically in favor of Maru, who's grabbing a fairly fast 4th gas. Now he's going to go to barracks. Okay, no surprise mech here from Maru. Medevac drop coming in. Goes straight for the SCV with the Marines, and then the SCV line with the Hellions. Really nice drop, in fact. However, the SCV is pulled safely to the Cyclone and auto turret means that most of them will live here. However, 7 SCVs actually going down. That's still pretty nice. I'd say the Hellions did make up for their earlier failure. Now Kira is ahead by 1 worker. Still a little behind on the 3rd CC, and now I guess the action's going to stop, so I don't know if he's going to lift up his medevac again with a bunch of units. I guess he could. But at this point in time, Maru is probably safe from further harassment. Little supply block thanks to that. Command center is supposed to unsupply block him, so that stall out affected him in more ways than one. Maru, with the heavier income for a little while, has made that into faster barracks. So his marine production will be a little bit better than Cure's. So you can see he still doesn't have those extra barracks. Now swapping off the starport to the reactor, actually. It's going to go into some Vikings. Maru's also going into Vikings, though. In fact, Maru at this point seems to have just forgotten Stim? I mean, it's definitely bio. That scan's pretty perfect. It sees everything. 3 starports, barracks, without the reactors. I guess it could still be kind of ambiguous if this is Medivacs or Vikings. Not the most perfect scan ever, but I mean, still, it's a pretty good scan. Stim does finally start up for Maru. Cures has yet to begin, so, you know, even though Maru had to delay his because the mineral count was actually too low. He was trying to afford too many things. He is still getting a faster one. And the third command center is equally timed. Let's just call it that. Kier is ahead by 4 workers, though. He has brought this game back. I mean, he was supposed to have this game with the initial defense, but then the Reapers did a run by, and now he's back in it. So Kier is trying to even defend, or rather contain, totally the opposite of defend, contain the third command center. Scans ahead, sees the army prepared. Doesn't think he's going to be able to find any harassment there. Is actually on the retreat. The scan's coming down. Kira's not even bothering to try and get a little cheeky siege up. He runs back to a little bit more of a choke. However, that leaves his left side a little open. Hello? Kira? Kira really thought he was going to just dive over to the right side. He overstayed on that tank siege on that choke. That was actually kind of odd. Third command center is going to have to be lifted because of that. I mean, maybe he doesn't race back in time anyways, but it was very obvious he wasn't going to race back in time at that point. His stim has not started still, by the way, so I was pointing out Maru's lack of stim, but it was clear he just was waiting for the minerals. Cure has to have forgotten it. This is actually really poor play at this point from Cure. He is thrown off. This is his second supply block, actually. I wasn't going to mention the first one, but we watched that third command center when it was so landed, not able to produce SCVs because he was supply blocked. This next supply block really hitting him hard, and we just got to agree that he forgot stim, right? This is so late, considering that barracks has been on a tech lab for a while too. It's not like he was doing something particularly tricky. They both are producing Vikings. Cure actually going for 1 less Raven. It would even support him having a faster stim, but that's not how it worked out. And then he just forgot it. So this is questionable. The only thing that's going well for Cure is that Maru can't know that he's not getting stim. You know? It's like every time you see slow banelings and you think, oh, I can snipe these guys, is the second that centrifugal hooks kicks in. You know what I mean? So you don't want to assume. You scan, you scout, you scout. The guy still doesn't stim. The guy still doesn't have combat shields. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll try. And then combat shield finishes. That's the only thing going well for Cure, is that Maru has no ability to know there's no sim. Maru, I don't think, is quite at that place where he could abuse Cure's lack of stim, as they both are still very tech heavy. The marine count isn't what they're depending on. It's the triple Raven, it's the 7 tanks, it's the 10 Vikings. But eventually, since we still have to wait for combat shields too, Cure will be outmatched Marine versus Marine, and he's falling behind on upgrades. Just to collect everything together, Cure's in a really shitty spot. His Ravens, both do not get killed. I thought that was going to be a tap. There we go. Cure loses both of his Ravens, and while he does ensure victory for the Viking counts, how about them Marines, you know? how about them Knicks? The Vikings might ward away Maru. You know, if they always are in position, getting the first shots off, killing the Raven, killing the Medivacs, maybe Maru goes, okay, whatever, man. Because again, Maru can't be sure about how far ahead he is. But Kira certainly knows that he is in trouble and that he needs to defend as well as possible. And keep up appearances. That everything's okay definitely means to be at this stage. It definitely means they don't have combat shields right now. Don't even worry about it. So far, so good. Replacing his third command center off to the right side makes it a little more awkward to defend. The main base is looking a little vulnerable. 3 Vikings on patrol. If you try to time it out like it's a platformer or something, you could definitely get into that main base. Kira now realizing how vulnerable that side of the map is for him. Gets 2 more missile turrets, but is it too late? In fact, it definitely is too late. 16 Marines going to drop out of those medevacs. Or are they? The Vikings respond. So sorry, only 5 Marines dropped out, but the tanks still get into position. The Marines still provide the high ground, and Kira loses a whole barracks for it. Also, a Viking does go down. Maru has his own sensor tower, so he sees the incoming attack of Cure and has plenty of reinforcements to deal with that. No worries over there. Main worry is just doing more damage with this attack. His last Marine died on the high ground, so scans will have to cover it, and they are limited. So Maru will eventually disengage. But Maru is now even aggressively taking on Cure's little run-by attempt. Pushes that out of the way. Get the heck out of here. And Maru now has those 2-2 upgrades. He also has a much faster 4th command center. Cures is lifted and ready to go, but is not on its way quite yet. Maru maxing out a little bit faster as well. Probably going to destroy these tanks and start engaging on top of a would-be 4th base. Again, it's a little weird seeing that that's going to be the planetary, but it is what it is. Maru sieging up first. Kira has to respect that, and actually Kira needs to get over to the right side a little bit more, because that's where Maru is trying to hit. Tanks are sieged up. Anti-armor missile is down. Liberator tried to help out too. And all together, all the chaos seems like it's going to be a bit of a wash. Kira getting anti-armor missile on his Vikings maybe contributed to Maru barely winning out in the Viking fight, but didn't really impact the tanks' lives, right? They're still fine. They get unoranged. Unfortunately for Kira, despite being a little later to those upgrades, he was able to hold on defensively, and now the upgrades are once again even. Planetary is on the way. Tanks are properly positioned to stop Maru's tanks from actually shelling away on that 4th. Case in point, as long as Kira has the vision. There we go. Maru still with a lot of map control, still with the upgrade lead. Now moving on to a 5th base on location, because he can get away with it. He's also going for the starport play afterwards, not the 8 racks play, so he will soon have many more Vikings than Cure. Cure did go for 3 starports himself. This is what Maru is usually really good at, is making sure to add in the starport production to basically even out the maxed out scenario eventually. So Cure might not be able to max out as quickly, but if he can depend on his tanks to be well positioned and cover his supply gap, he can fit in the more expensive Viking production. So at some point Cure did that, I just completely didn't even notice. So it's actually Maru very late to his own triple starports. Well, not late to them, but he tried to make the moves to end the game prior to having to add the starports, and now is just saying, yeah, you know what, I gotta go for starports. I gotta play that game. But Cure was a little faster to it. Has a substantial Viking count right now. Probably will even up as the game goes on. 10 tanks seems like a pretty fine number to me. Maru at 16 tanks. That is a mech army. I don't care, there's Marines right there. That is a lot. He's got 2 medevacs. It's like, this is it. This is your healthcare. All right. That is so many tanks. Good lord. He's also got +2 attack. He's working on +3. Speaking of, 3-3 upgrades going to finish from Maru, but 3-3 upgrades can't push past 10 tanks defensively sieged. Not even if they really try. 2 more starports on the way from Maru, as well as 2 more command centers. He might not have been faster to the late game, but by golly, he is going to win it regardless. He's got the map control, he's got the resources, and he will use all of that to continue getting ahead in this game. But the army's evened out. It can technically go sideways for Maru. He could lose a big fight, and then all the map control in the world won't matter as you desperately scramble to defend. But let's say Maru does lose a fight really badly. He just messes up. If Cure tries to go for the outside bases first, they're going to buy some time. Cure takes his time killing a planetary, takes his time killing a planetary, and Maru remaxes. So Maru is certainly still giving himself a second chance if he even needs it. He might not need it. Right now, I'm thinking of like a Brood War. We don't have a zoom out enough to really cover the entire map, but this is like a Brood War setup, honest to God. I know people in chat might not be Brood War fans, and God, who likes watching Brood War TvT, but seriously, like, you just get so many tanks, because it's mech versus mech, and you just spread them around and then cover them with missile turrets. That's literally what you do. Anyways, a little more dynamic in StarCraft 2 thanks to Marines being so good compared to their Brood War counterparts. So even though Maru was trying to go for this contain, also tanks are like a little worse because AI is so much better. Yeah, it just doesn't work out as well. In Brood War, you gotta give a lot of respect to 4 tanks even if you have numbers. Not really the case here. So Maru, you know, he was trying to divide the map in half. Didn't really work out, and has actually just kind of lost him some tanks almost unnecessarily. You know, they've been under-defended. It wasn't 10 tanks covering each other, it was 3 tanks covering 1 tank at a time, or whatever it was. So that was a little awkward. I like the idea, but there's definitely some things that just do not work from Brood War to StarCraft 2. I still love the idea as far as buying time. So if Kira wants to take down this... Well, okay, the army's here now, but let's go over here. If he takes down this tank, that's not necessarily the biggest loss for Maru, who is pretty rich. I mean, Kira's also pretty rich at this point, but that's a scout. That's Kira having to put the effort into killing a tank and a missile turret, and then Maru's like, oh, okay, your army's over there. So Maru, I mean, he's still getting something from trying to divide the map, but now Kira's also taking the same stance, except the Viking count for him might be a little bit better. Actually, it is not. Maru dominating the Viking count very quickly, even before the orange went down on Kira's Vikings. He was already winning that Viking count. I guess he had more Vikings at the start of that, but he also just... I guess it's always dramatic when you start winning these air battles from 1 or 2 Viking difference all the way to a 10 Viking difference. That's what Kira was hoping would not happen. And now the slow siege forward will happen in favor of Maru, who could also start adding in Liberators if they got range, which only Kira has right now. Then the missile turret might not be enough to stop that. Well... There's two things, right? Like, either the Liberator avoids the missile turret, takes the right angle of attack, or Maru siege hops his tanks forward, which also kills the missile turret. Point is, Maru has the perfect set of units. And Kira wants also the perfect set of units, but he lost the unit count war. Also, it looks like Kira might have over-invested into Liberators, thinking that he was winning the Viking War when it just is so freaking hard to tell. You can't exactly tell the difference of 15 Vikings versus 20, to be honest. Certainly when they're bunched up like this, you can't. So 5 Liberators, not doing much more work than, 2, perhaps. Kill 1 tank before the other one disengages. Once again, the Viking War going in favor of Maru, and this is where Kira maybe wanted 3 more Vikings as opposed to 3 more Liberators. Maru once again winning the air war means that now his Liberators, of which he has only gotten 2 so far, can start advancing on Kira. We are just watching these tank battles commence. This is actually so much more like a Brood War TvT. It's kind of shocking me. Like, I know it's not really working out that way, because I definitely was right calling it the way that it is, but it's actually kind of absurd. So much of StarCraft 2 late game TvT, even when both players go for triple plus starports, so much of it is still mostly moving around in, well, let's call it what it is, blobs. And then trying to catch someone out of position. Maybe some tanks, right, like 2 tanks back at home, 2 tanks back at home, but then everything else is with a blob trying to kill the other player. Not siege up all the way across, dotting the minimap. Though it's fun. It's fun. I don't see Kira winning the battle, though. Oh, no, he's definitely winning the battle. At this point in time, Maru is the one who didn't have enough Viking production, actually going really heavy on the Raven production. So Kira finally... He put all of his Starfort production into Vikings, finally, well, should be winning it, and yet I'm looking at the numbers, 16 to 11, and I look at the actual scenario, and Kira's the one who's disengaging again. Even when he's winning the numbers, he can't win the battle. Raven's still proving to be too freaking useful, and Kira, okay. I'll stick to what I was gonna say. I don't see Kira winning these final battles, these late game battles. And I feel even more emboldened to say that. He clearly had more Vikings and could not beat Maru's superior composition, I suppose. The Ravens being perfect. Maru's late game, we do consider to be the tippity-toppitest of the scale of StarCraft 2. No one can defeat him at this stage. Kira gets close, but apparently no cigar. No cigar for you. Which is what they used to hand out at carnivals whenever you won a carnival game. Another fight in the air. Anti-armor missile just blanketing Kira's army, plus a couple of interference matrices, plus disables on the tanks. Maru is barely winning out on the Viking War with the help of auto turrets, especially. Definitely winning out in the Viking War. And has now moved his tanks close to the planetary, also finding an extra command center, 3 command centers for 1 maneuver. That's a deal right there. At this point, Kira has just been bleeding out. The resources lost heavily in favor of Maru. Almost at 10,000, actually. And we won't get there. Because Kira he just taps out. He realizes this game at no point, well, in the last 9 minutes, has gone well for him. More than that, Kira's always been on the back foot. So finally taps out. GG's. And that means that the series is once again tied. All tied up once again. Moving on to Ancient Cistern. In the top right, it is Cure. Bottom left, it is Maru. Cure is sending out an SCV. It's his time to shine. I, at this point in time, do not remember all the openers, but I do know that Maru did 2 racks twice. One in base, one outside. Another one with proxies. Was it last game? Was that last game? Were Maru 2 racks? These just games. There's been a lot of TvTs. I can only imagine what was the casters' brains felt like when they were casting 2 semifinals and the finals on the same day. That would have been hard to keep track of. Anywho, Kira is now going for the proxy 2 racks and actually proxying both of them. Fairly close to Maru's base. And now it is the flip of last game. Kira with a 2 racks proxy. Oh no, Maru did get a second gas. Okay, called it a little too soon. That's my bad. Maru is not 1 racks expanding. He does get a second gas. And so he is better set up to defend against it than Kira was last game. I would say that Kira defended it fine. Except for the part where the Reapers did a run by. But I just, like... I don't know. Like, he was supposed to be fine against it. He actually had the units to try and tackle the Reapers, but the Reapers just bought that room to then run by into the SEV line, and it just feels... On behalf of Cure, I'm the, Oh man, what's that meme where the unimpressed kid, the kid just like at his like photo and he's just like, I'm that on behalf of Cure. Like Cure really should have been in a better position last game. So, Cure at this point in time is now hoping that Maru makes a similar mistake, I suppose, where, Maru is factory expanding, is more likely to defend perfectly, but hey, there's always that chance that Cure makes the room to then run by the SCV line and get, 8 workers killed. That's the hope. But right now, it kind of feels like it's circling the drain. Maru's initial defense looking as good as Cure's initial defense. Will that keep up? Yes, indeed it will. So far, it's Cure who loses an SCV, and Maru has lost 0. How about that? The 2 racks player is the one that loses the SCV. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. And he's not finding any wiggle room. I mean, I guess Cure's biggest mistake in the last game was just letting the Reapers up onto the high ground. Since all of them got on the high ground, they got a concave, they used their grenades. That is the key difference right now, is Maru made sure to use his SCVs as long as they were necessary. Again, losing 0 units so far. And then once he figured he had enough units to support the Reaper and Marines, so basically the Hellion, he lets the SCVs go back and do their work. So a textbook defense. If you struggle against 2 Raxes, this is the one to watch, guys. This is perfect defense, giving Maru the deserved 2 worker lead, command center lead as well. I would have been really giddy. I would have giggled if Cure had turned this into the 1-1-1 proxy. I would have found that very amusing. He is not. Oh, here we go. Maru, his own SimCity kind of working against him. did not respond to this particularly quickly. Kier finally getting that run by that he was looking for. The revenge is at hand. 7 SCVs go down, maybe a Hellion as well. And this is now a lot more similar to the last game, where the defender defends perfectly initially, and then those Reapers just get into that mineral line, don't they? They just love doing that. And it is funny that Maru's SimCity deterred him from reacting as fast as possible. I jinxed it, the caster curse, it's real. Maru now down 6 workers, and Kier is probably wiping some sweat off his brow. Up until that point, the complete denial of his aggression, I think, was getting concerning. I mean, it's still a tied-up series, so he's not in his last life or anything like that, but I would have been concerned. Maru wins the last game, defends the 2-Rax proxy perfectly, and wins this game, and then it already feels like the snowball is well and truly in effect. Fortunately, is not the case. Kier got the damage. He can now say, okay, cool, like, I've got this game, maybe, even at this point. If he does everything correctly from here on out. Easier said than done, especially against Maru. Kier making sure to get all the types of scouting that he needs. His last Reaper finally getting killed in the natural, and his barracks finally going to burn down. So no more scouting. No more free scouting, I should say. Kier's 3cc build will extend his economic lead. His 3rd CC actually finishing shortly after his natural. I mean, that's a pretty big difference of natural timings. So Maru might bridge the SCV gap a little because of that, but Kier will still have a lead there. What is now in favor of Maru, for sure, is that army supply. Can he use it? Well, 2 Hellions almost dying, taken away from an army supply. Without a tank, you can't really do anything. And a medevac of Maru. He's done this before. This is not a mistake. I'm 90% sure. He's going to go for a scout with this and then get Kier to panic. Now, the panic that Kier can have at this is not extreme. I mean, he's not going to build 5 missile turrets here, but he will probably go like, oh shit. However, for Maru, even as far as a scout goes, this has been a failure. So this was, it's kind of funny, it's kind of cheeky, but it didn't even scout. It's kind of a useless medevac so far. Thank you for the 200 bits, by the way, guys. Fabula Nova crystals. Kier's 3cc setup is complete, but the worker count was indeed bridged. Maru has evened up completely thanks to his much faster natural command center. I thought Kier would still hold on to a 3 or 4 SCV lead with his faster 3rd. Nope, guessed wrong. It's actually completely even. And as far as the unit counts, we do have Maru going up to 2 Ravens, Kier only going up to 1. They both spent some time on the starport building a medevac and Viking. And then so Stim is pretty close together. Maru managed to grab faster barracks, faster engineering base, faster Stim. So he's ahead in a lot more regards. Oh, there we go. I'm like, this isn't... Hold on here. Like, there's got to be a bigger advantage for Kier somewhere. I found it. I was like finding Waldo, but I finally found it, guys. 4 tanks for Kier to Maru's 1. I was like, something about this. Just like, this doesn't... No way Maru's just... He can't just like be that far ahead after being a little behind. And he definitely is still behind by 6 workers. So that, again, that 3rd CC finally kicked in at some point. But the 4 tanks to 1, there we go. The 5 tanks to 2. That's the advantage for Kier. Two medevacs picked up from Maru. And it looks like he's sending the Ravens with it as well. Gonna make this into a pretty brutal double drop. Imagine hitting that natural. Kier has 1 scouting unit, but it's hardly scouting the very edge of the map. Plenty of space for the quad hit. I can't think of a better phrase for this one. 2 medevacs and 2 Ravens. Plenty of room for them to skirt the edges. Here we go, Marine. It's your time to shine. Let's do it. Come on, buddy. Move over to the right side. Come on. For the Terran Dominion. Okay. Or do nothing. Unfortunately for Kira, he will be slightly out of position, but he's really not all that much so. I mean, his army's not that far away, right? But with the Ravens added in, the Marines all dropping out, that is a lot of damage output very, very quickly. 9 SCVs go down, Engineering Bay goes down, second one will not. Kira making sure that stays alive. I would say overall an effective drop, despite Kira being so close to defending it. Now Kira's going to be behind by an upgrade. He did manage to save the attack upgrade, which we always consider the most important, but it really does matter to be behind an armor upgrade with these fast-shooting Marines. So Maru just got a big victory there, because now he has the worker lead, he has the upgrade lead, and he has the map control. More CC coming down for him. Kira a little bit later to it. Obviously rebuilding his engineering bay, falling behind on the 2-2. Scan to determine if there is a point of weakness for Cure. His tank count is still very good. It's 7 tanks to 4. Maru still has his 2 Ravens. Unfortunately for Cure, that interference matrix, well, yeah, no, he wanted his tank to kill his opponents, but now Maru's Ravens are back in action, so it's Cure who moves this tank closer only to have it killed. And that little tiny, tiny dynamic right there just further convinces me that Maru is, in fact, the better TvTer. I know, it's a harsh thing to say. It's a high bar for Cure. I'm sorry you lost 1 tank and Maru lost 0, but I'm going to read into that a lot. I'm going to read into this being a Maru victory. But of course not just because of that tank. But because he's up 8 workers, he's got much faster upgrades. 4th command center is going to be landed before Cure's is finished. You know, all that stuff. And now Cure is going to have to play a defensive game again, similar to a previous game they played that I don't remember what game it was. Cure, was it Gressfon? Might have been Gressfon. You know, Cure can play the defensive game, whereas I thought Bunny would be very uncomfortable playing the defensive game. Obviously he can, he's a good TvTer. I think Cure is about even on his aggression and his defense. If we're talking about some type of scoring system, I think they'd be pretty even. So he can absolutely play out the longer defensive game, the comeback game that Maru also has displayed great ability in. I think Cure can do it too. But it's really difficult. Maru, being so good at playing the defensive comeback game, is also pretty good at reading how to defeat the guy trying to do the same thing. Maru's 5th base is, you know, it's a bit audacious. It probably should be canceled. You don't get away with that. Cure being aggressive, he actually has a bigger army supply. For some reason. Is Maru... Maru is starting to move over on his starports, okay. He's gonna try and tackle this before the tanks were sieged up, but that didn't work. Had to leave. It's fortunate that he had to, though, because there was also an attack from Cure on the top side that could have taken care of the tanks if Maru had thought he could dedicate to the engagement. How did Cure get so far ahead in the supply? What the freak? Look at this. Look at this jump up. I was like, was Maru not ahead on the economy? I'm figuring this out again. Like, what's happening? Maru does have 2-2 done. Cure is only going to have 2-1. Maru will eventually max out, and he is going solidly into the triple starport play. Oh, that's awkward. 2 tanks stuck in the main. Where Cure is moving on to the 8 racks, but since Cure really, you know, he maxed out faster, he actually got on the map, and he got the map control just kind of while I thought he was the one that was still playing defensive. Just felt like all of a sudden he was ahead in supply. It makes a lot of sense for him to now be the one 8-raxing. And this medevac drop from Maru was a failure, so that would absolutely explain some of the army deficit through 3 medevacs. Well, 2 of them got bopped. This last one actually finding the damage that the other 2 could not. 14 SCVs killed, reactor getting taken down, some reinforcements also being taken down, but the medevac will eventually leave. But yeah, now Cure is the one's going to have that map control and try and throw bodies at Maru. Maru is the one going to play the superior army if it's always well positioned, and that is the trick to it. It's not always well positioned. 2 Marines going to add a couple more SCVs, because why not? Because Maru, again, made 1 medevac do more work than 2. The freak. So anyways, Maru still not maxed out. He's trying to build a slow building army. It's also expensive, but that's not really the problem right now. Both of them have enough cash to do what they want. The problem is that starports just produce less fast than Marines from a reactor. And Kier is trying to find the weak point. He's found a little bit of one, but he's continuing to engage despite being anti-air missile and down an upgrade and up against a depth of siege tanks. Kier saw an opportunity to ensure that Maru could not grab his 5th, and I guess he was right about that. Kier's army supply looking totally fine even after that dive. The denial of the 5th stays. 3-3 is on the way for Maru. Kier finally maybe finishes his 2-2. But Maru is no longer super dependent. I mean, he's never been super dependent on the Marines. The Maroons. Nope, that didn't work. Now he's going into the Ravens. So the upgrades, I mean, they'll still matter, for sure. But again, it's more about Maru's army being in that superior position to use its superior technology. Kier wants to find them unsieged, Ravens, not used well, and so that his Marines can just overwhelm. And you would say that Bjorn might actually continue on with the 8 racks indefinitely. He'll just stick with it no matter what. He's like, eventually it'll work, eventually it'll work, eventually it'll work. Kier, not that type of player. He did pause almost on the 8 racks. It was like a little visit to 8 racks town, and now he's already moving over into triple starport town. Hardly worth the visit, in fact. Right now, he is still mostly on that Marine-based army, of course, so it's going to be a while before he starts to match Maru's Viking and Raven count, but he is also headed that direction. He sees this game not going in his favor particularly quickly. It might still eventually. He might still get all this map control and take faster bases, build up a bigger bank, and so on and so forth. But right now, he is not cracking Maru, even though he's really trying. Once again, blitzing up this base, but a planetary's there, tanks are there, anti-missile once again, everything just working against Kier. So he will not stall out this 4th command center, and in fact, is about to lose some tanks, which you really, you don't want to lose. All the tanks, in fact. Maru drove up the middle, and I didn't see that until just now. Kier didn't either. Medivacs are actually so far away, they're not going to get any healing. These Marines are sacrificial, apparently. They're going to grab the orbital, but honestly, I would say that's not necessarily worth the amount of Marines that were killed in doing that. An orbital at this stage, 16 minutes, and they've, Kira's been able to build up some bases. It's not 400 minerals, I don't think, is actually worth the amount of Marines. But anyways, we also have different battles happening. And there was one happening here around this pillar. Eventually, it turned into Maru playing defensive. Kier tried to get in the dead zone of the tanks. We saw how it ended. And we see now the end result of all of the scuffles, which is that Kier is down in workers, but not by that much. He's even on army supply. He's finally even on those upgrades. But what he's not even on is the air army. 4 Ravens for Maru, 1 to Kier. And even though that was probably more minerals in Marines than it was in the orbital and 11 SCVs, both of them are capable of doing that. Again, I think Kier is capable of losing an orbital and replacing it, and I think Maru is capable of replacing 20 or 30 Marines, whatever it was. And in fact, he's making sure not to replace them in too much of a hurry. He doesn't really... Oh, Yamato's on the way. He doesn't really need to just immediately panic and go into spamming Marines, right? Because with 5 barracks, not going to get a lot very quickly anyways. Since he has his planetaries, his tanks, and his SimCity up and running, he can chill. He can take his time getting into Vikings and Ravens and upgrades. And battle cruisers, which I did not expect to see in this TvT here today. That is the one thing so far that we haven't seen, despite some of the other TvTs actually going the distance. Battle cruisers finally on the way. So Kier's also taken his time. He's not just filling up his supply with a bunch of Marines. He has moved on over into his own starport production. We're at that very tail end of TvT and getting to the endest of ends for TvT, which is battle cruisers. If Kier were to pick up on this, he might try and do the same, but it'd be difficult to do. Once you're behind in battle cruisers, it's just, you're behind. And arguably, given the right situation, the Viking Raven player might be better than the battlecruiser player. Given the right situation. Theoretically, I think we're once again talking about the perfect StarCraft 2 game plan. battlecruisers are better. Battlecruisers and Vikings and upgrades and, you know, everything required. But much like Mass Marine against Viking Raven, if the Viking Raven tanks are out of position, Mass Marine can overwhelm them. So if Maru doesn't micro his battlecruisers correctly or doesn't have a lot of them, you know, takes a fight with two and they both get disabled, I mean, who the hell cares you have battlecruisers? They're both disabled. So that's where we're at again. Maru with the superior technology and Cure with perhaps a chance to blitz, a chance to take advantage of the transition. But Maru is making sure to do this battlecruiser transition with a very hefty supply of air units. He's not just, you know, 3 battlecruisers, 2 Ravens, 1 Viking. That would have been atrocious. He is down by 4 Vikings, but he's ahead by 2 Ravens, and he has 3 battlecruisers, which, if they get their Yamato off, that's instantly, boom, 3 dead units. If Cure gets his disables off, then he might win. Battlecruisers might have some problems in direct fights, but one thing they have is the ability to harass and teleport back home. Unit retention also very strong with battlecruisers. But we can see that Cure is trying to break Maru right here. Not a whole lot of static defense that would have helped Maru for sure defend this place. A couple more missile turrets, right? Would have been nice. But Maru did not have them quite ready to go, so he's at half the Viking count. He's lost a lot of his Ravens. His battlecruisers do finally make an appearance. I don't know if Cure had scouted that previously, but of course now he knows. 3 battlecruisers taking down the SCVs and the planetary by the looks of it. Going to use their Yamato to do so. Which, I mean, I guess the idea is that they're not going to be engaging anytime soon. So they're going to get that Yamato back before the next big engagement happens. I was kind of worried he wouldn't actually get that planetary, but he does at the very last second. Both of them continuing to get upgrades. Cure actually never finishes bio upgrades, but I guess it's really not important at this point. It usually is, but it's definitely not at this point. Both of them getting into the air upgrades as well. Cure with the better vehicle upgrade, but I'm also pretty sure that's not important anymore either. +3 tank attack doesn't impact the kill shot of Marines anyways. And, well, it's not about Marines now, so... Don't think that matters. What matters is the fact that Maru has 2-2 on the way for his air. Cure only has +2 on the way for his air. So he is once again behind on upgrades. He's got 27 Vikings to Maru's 18, but 7 battlecruisers with 7 Yamatos. Actually, Cure would still win that, I guess, in terms of numbers, but then you'd have 8 battlecruisers that also tank a lot and do a decent bit of damage. So... Not, you know, that's not the preference. Right now, Cure would have to disable every battlecruiser that he tries to snipe. But obviously getting a Raven into the mix without sacrificing it's basically impossible. I do not see Cure winning this game. Unfortunately. Army supplies are even. Tanks are finding an opportunity here from Cure, but here comes the air war. I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's watch it together, guys. Orange every which way we look. But the battlecruisers being the biggest bullies, they're not even sending out their Yamatos yet. They're too cool for Yamatos, guys. Cure, forced to evacuate, just can't take everything on, man. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 7 more Vikings if they have these big-ass battlecruisers tanking up all the shots. And again, they're too cool. They don't even have to use the motto. There they go. Now ensuring the deaths of Cure's army, and that is that. GG. Yeah, when Maru got to like 6+ battlecruisers, it seemed that the writing was on the wall. There was still some hope when there was 3, and if Cure had gotten some sneaky disables and so on, but no, that's just the superior army at the end of the day. GG's. We have so far gotten, I think, everything I can imagine for a TvT in the semis and the finals. What are we missing? Perhaps another mech game, I suppose. I haven't seen too much of mech. But yeah, Cure not able to beat Maru in the Supreme late game, and now Cure finds himself on his last life. Royal Blood might be the last map of this best of 7. In the top right, looking for his 6th GSL victory. It is Maru. We'll do a swivel zoom. Swivel. In the bottom left, looking to finally take down Maru when it matters most, it is Cure. took him down in the group stage, advancing him to first place. Maru was quick to grab second. Arguably not that important. Important is right here, right now. On your last life, looking for a GSL victory, looking to stop Maru's GSL 6, which doesn't have nearly the same nice naming and logo as GSL 5, but, you know. Still cool. Did I call this so perfectly? If this turns into a 1-1-1 proxy, I am going to high-five myself. And I will not be ashamed. Kira's going for a factory expand, so he's really not vulnerable to a 2-rack. So far it is just, you know, barracks at home, barracks on the proxy, you know, whatever. God, I hope he goes into a 1-1-1. Kira's going for an SCV scout, so he's playing very, very safe. Maru is up a game. So now, you know, Maru is absolutely the type of player, no matter if he's up a game, down a game, even on game, to throw out a cheese. So you really are just like, you know, trying to choose the right time to go for the right build. And in this case, Kira goes for a factory expand SCV scout, which means that he should realize what is going on to a certain extent. He's actually stopped his worker from scouting completely. So he's trying to delay a command center if it was really, really real. It's not real, though. It was a bit of a fake. And now he's going to the main base to look. He's going to see that it is only one barracks. But say, okay, it's like probably too much gas. It's clearly on a factory expand. You got to be doing something else. Oh, okay, duh. It's probably a second barracks out in the map. So Kira knows to play defensive. What Kira doesn't know as of yet is whether or not it's going to be that proxy factory as well. And God, I hope it is. Oh my God, it is. Oh, I nailed it. I so nailed it, guys. I swear to God, I didn't watch these games. Just, I hate that I have to put, like, that disclaimer on it, you know? God. But I love it. Maru's up a game, and he's going to do something that Kira so far has a 0% win rate against. Now, that's putting it very harshly. I'm kind of, you know, making my own narrative here. But seriously, Kira has shown that he cannot defend this full-on proxy against Byun and against Maru. So Maru is like, well, I'm just going to do it again. Yuck, yuck. I'm just going to do it again. What are you going to do? Oh, but Maru's changing it. Okay, I'll kind of take back that high five I gave myself. He's changing. He's not going to go into a full 1-1-1. He's going to go into a factory kind of expand. I don't know if you call it that anymore, but he's going to go into a factory proxy and then go for an expansion. Now, is that because Kira scouted that he was proxying a factory? It might be. Maybe this wasn't his initial plan, but he is changing it on a whim, and I don't mind it. Kira lost his game versus Byun with the idea, the build order that is the 1-1-1, not because he died to the 1-1-1 really, but because he died to his own over-defending. Byun did commit to the 1-1-1, did try to pressure him, failed, but then had a faster command center. And now Maru is just is extending that idea, right? Saying, well, you're just going to be so terrified because you can't beat this that I am still going to get ahead because I'm just going to not do anything. And right now, this scenario, this whole Maru being ahead thing is not quite reflected in the supply. But at this rate, Kira's going to be forced to one base all in. Okay, he's going to get a command center, but he's going to fall behind, right? So he's not going to one base all in, but what he is going to have to do is find damage with his one base setup that he might never try to find because he keeps expecting to be attacked. At the end of the day, unless Kira moves out with his army supply as it is currently, he is going to fall behind as the game furthers into a macro game. Now, a Hellion just ran in here and killed 4 SCVs. 2 Hellions did. So that helps Kira's cause. He also gets that scout, that much needed scout to know, like, oh my God, you're not all into me. Hello. But Kira can only do so much. He does cancel or salvage his bunker, rather. He is going to start to move out, and I think this is the best thing he can possibly do, but he has been fooled to a certain extent. Now the question is, was he fooled to enough of an extent that Maru does end up defending and thus taking victory with his faster command center? Already looking good. Maru, I kind of forgot there was a 2-racks involved, does have 4 Reapers, make that 3. They're buying time. And so that time bought means, well, I was going to say another siege tank, but we know that factory was proxied, so not as clear cut as that. One tank was made in proxy, got sent back home, so Maru has some type of defense. Maru also going for a run-by with his 3 Reapers. He's going to run into a tank and also get a scout on the Liberator, so he knows what's going to follow this up. Is there anything he can do about it? Maybe not, but now he has the knowledge. Maru is in trouble right now. He's gotten that worker lead, but the tank contain is worrisome. His factory production was just so damn delayed from the trickery. And now he's supply blocked. He could cancel the medevacs and go for the tank instead, but you can clearly see him emphasizing it. He wants to get the 16 Marines to fly maybe across the map or maybe just over here to get a surround. And I think that's what he's going to go for. So he's going to let the command center get injured. He's going to lose out on his economic lead, although the Reapers are really trying to keep that even. And he's going to try and just pounce on this. And if he pounces on this correctly, Cure will not have enough of an army to defend back at home. Cure is rallying across the map. His Liberator is pointed the wrong direction. His Vikings are in the wrong direction. He doesn't realize that Maru is going to be coming in from behind. Now he does. But can he stop it? Maru also has this very clutch Raven looking for a couple of interference matrix. So far, not going to pull the trigger. Waiting for more reinforcements, I suppose. And now he's going to walk across the map. SCVs were not able to be evacuated. All 11 of them die. And now Kier realizes that the real threat is behind him. He's going to still have the advantage of defending with the choke, or offending with the choke? I don't know how you want to put it. But, you know, does he have enough back at home? The Marines are coming across the map, led by the Reapers. Good old Reapers. We got ourselves potential for a little bit of a base race. Raven's coming along too. Cure only has that one tank to help defend. His Marines are abysmal compared to Maru's. That tank is a goner. The tank on the high ground should get a couple of nice shots. These are combat shieldless Marines after all. But another interference pitch does come down. Barely enough for Maru to move up this ramp. It's damn close, but the medevac healing is starting to push through. Maybe not. No. Has to pick up. But 17 SCVs lost their lives in that defense. Meanwhile, Kier's army not able to blitz in such a fashion. He has to pay attention to it, of course, but then also has to siege up, so he could not do the return damage. Now he scans and sees that that main is so freaking wide open. He does get a shot in the tank, but doesn't actually get to kill it, so still something here from Maru to defend the main. He saved his orbital, don't forget that, and he does still have his army coming back for that surround that he was going to go for, and then decided not to. This game is still on a razor-thin edge, as both of them are down to equal workers, but here we go. Not just a back attack, but also a bit of a drop. Everything coming together for Maru to clear out Kier's army, and every bit of Kier's army will be destroyed, besides perhaps the medevac, I suppose. Viking somehow manages to live as well, but Maru has pushed this back. He does not have an army supply lead, though. Kier had a lot of time to build up the army back at home with the way things went, so even though his offensive army got cleared up totally and entirely, he does not come out of this with a, loss of army supply. In fact, he's really well set up on 2 bases. Tanks nicely positioned against any form of attack, into the natural, into the main, wherever it goes. But Kier still has one big problem, and that is his substantially late upgrades. Stim and combat shield still on the way, as Maru finally has his combat shields to be a little more effective against those tank attacks. And then besides that, Kier has opted to go into 2 tech labs, right? And I think that is very much necessary, but it does also take away from your production, 1 less Marine at a time. I'd say if this was a 7-base TvT, doesn't matter at all, but with it being 2-base to 2-base does matter a little bit. Kier's going to be able to contain himself on 2 bases and be rather safe for it, but this is once again Maru's opportunity to grab that kind of sneakier 3rd base. It's actually very similar to the early stage of this game, where Kier has to be defensive, and so cannot get that 3rd base before it was his natural. Now it's his 3rd. Maru might be behind in workers and army, but I was going to say, as the map control, I was wrong. Hold on here. Kier sneaking by with 2 medevacs into the main, grabs a tank, and then skedaddles. Unfortunately, without combat shields, his Marines were still much worse. All right. So back to my original point. Maru very close to finding those medevacs. Is that Maru is once again getting the rest of the game going. Kier is still stuck on this kind of 2-base, because he has to be, because he's in such a weird position. But Maru is going to play out the rest of the game. He's going to get his 3rd CC. He's going to continue getting that map control, and he's going to continue with these upgrades being better than Kier's again. Every single TvT that Maru has played, he has a better upgrade. So what is up with that? What is up with that? But yeah, Kier didn't even start his +1 armor. In fact, it's not a mistake. He just thought he could only afford a single engineering bay, and he was probably right. But this all just goes back to how awkward this is. It's not really about the numbers that we're seeing here that say that Cure's ahead. It's not. I would say he's not. It's about the other things that we got to look at, the production timing, the upgrade timing, and the actual ability of Cure to find a lethal strike. Now, if he can find a lethal strike as he has 10 more army supply, more power to him. Maybe he wins the game, gets to game 7. But if he can't find that and Maru's not letting him get it, then, you know, it will go into a macro game and Maru will have better upgrades. He also has a slight SCV lead. He did get that faster third command center, but he also respected Cure's potential for an attack, for a drop, whatever it is. So they both ended up being very conservative on 2 bases. But at the end of the day, Maru had a faster third to drop mules and build SCVs. Now, as they both get more comfortable, they both might grab their third on location. But it's only so comfortable for Cure, who ends up behind in the upgrades. Such a bummer. If it wasn't for the upgrades, I would just be saying that Cure's got this. Even then, though, I mean, it's Maru on 3 bases, right? But especially without that upgrade. Cure's never going to have the best possible battle. Maru's orbital's faster, so he's already dropping down mules. His 2 medevacs that were really just waiting for an opportunity decided to go back home. Things calmed down drastically. So they both get up sensor towers, start up all their upgrades. Again, Cure's so far behind on his. Not even starting that +2 attack because he doesn't have the minerals. There we go. A scan at the third. Not quite seeing the full extent of the army. Kind of seeing it now. I don't know what those 2 Marines thought they could do, but they thought they were going to do something. And just run back home. Well, I've been really criticizing Cure's lack of upgrades, but now Maru's the one that's forgetting one. He has the resources. Does he have the resources? Yes, he's got the resources. Does he have the +2? He's not getting it. He's still not getting it. All right, so there's a chance for Cure to come back on that. There is a chance for Cure to come back in the upgrades now. And since he still has kept the army supply lead, very small lead, but still, my confidence in him is rising. 4th command center might just get canceled here. Yeah, so early on, not enough health on that. Despite tanks being well positioned, they just couldn't save it. And Cure defending against any drops over the left with plenty of Vikings, Maru with Marines, both of them knowing that could be a weakness. Cure's trying to corral the medevacs, but there are some dead spaces on Royal Blood. Perhaps not there. Looks like Maru doubted that would be enough, so he goes over to the right side. Barely gets away, too. Just barely, and now he's got that straight shot up to his main base again. There's no one is feeling particularly confident to move out. We have 9 tanks to 8, 32 Marines to 30, 7 Vikings to 7. SCV count completely even, and now thanks to Maru messing up his +2 armor, the upgrades are also kind of even. If Maru doesn't start his in the next 20 seconds, he will be straight up behind in Marine upgrades. Come on, come on, come on. He remembered his +2 vehicle weapons. He just did not notice. He never got that armor. Whoopsie-daisy. So he is now behind, guys. He is now behind. Okay, right now, for the next 15 seconds, Maru's ahead. But assuming that Cure doesn't have the worst anti-timing ever. Okay, good. Then Cure's going to get ahead on these upgrades. Scans going down left, right, and center as they both realize, though, that this is really getting into a turtley game. Cure's looking for a weakness, but Maru has so many tanks so well spread out with some Sim City. That's not really breakable. Maru has now actually even further fallen behind in the army supply. Despite the worker counts really being quite even at times, Maru having the faster third on location. I guess Cure got actually saturated faster. Maybe dropped more mules. I wasn't keeping count of that. So Maru is once again further behind in supply than expected. I made the same mistake last game. I don't think it's because I'm dumb. I mean, I think Cure was stable enough to keep like a 10 army supply lead, but now he has once again jumped up further in supply than I was expecting. and is the one that could go across the map with a much heavier army supply. Because Maru fell behind even further, but then is also now once again transitioning. So if he falls behind in supply then, that just makes sense. Kure has already gotten his transition down. He already afforded his starports. So he could actually go across the map, engage, and maybe have Liberators follow up. He's right now in a really great position, but the difficulty is finding the exact attack. He could. If he manages to push up to the right side, for instance, he could take down these 3 tanks just with the Marines alone, but also slow siege hop with a Liberator if he wanted to. But he just doesn't know what Maru's doing either. Trying to collect all of the remnants of the Marines spread around here. Kira's 4th base a planetary, 5th base on the way. Maru's also a planetary and properly protected by the tank count. Maru still not ahead on the Vikings. 4 more on the way. It's going to make it a little more even, but Maru's taking the fight right here, right now, and I'm not sure if that's actually a good fight to take. In fact, it is not. Maru realizes that and pulls away, but unfortunately that might mean his 5th base is a goner. Looks like it. 5th base gone. That's not something that Maru can't recover from. He already has 2 more command centers on the way. A 3rd one's also on the way. And as he realizes he is in trouble when it comes to that air, he's going to go ahead and slip in a Thor. Which is a bit desperate. You know, you don't really want to be going into Thor so much in the professional TvT, but if you need it, you need it. Kira's still not on a fusion core for Liberator range. Means that the Thor will be very effective against the Liberators. But, you know, runs forward to deal with the Liberator. Tanks kill it instantly. There's so many tanks for Kure. It's still not the ideal scenario. The Thor really only stops further advancement, I suppose, if that. Maru sending out a little Marine squad to the right. Found out by a scout, so if he was planning on diving with it, yeah, you don't do that anymore. His extra command centers are done, turning into orbitals. I guess he'll use this one or this one to turn into a 5th base, but he's not really capturing his own 5th base anytime soon. It seems like he's not too worried about sending something over. He's just worried about trying to perfect his army composition. Kure, meanwhile, takes the map. Has really gotten into a dominant position as far as the, I guess, pacing of the game and the control of the game. But Maru is an expert in this situation where other people might crack under the pressure. The just overwhelming nature of the opponent that's gotten ahead, that's gotten the map control, that's denied you your bases. Maru is literally the best at not cracking under that pressure. Just saying that eventually he'll get to the right composition and eventually he'll take the right fight. So as long as he's got that solid enough economy, which at this point in the game is 4 bases, but very soon it'll have to be 5, then, you know, he might still win. But if Kure has an indefinite contain and Maru never gets a 5th base, then he will be dependent on, you know, 1 attack to really get the game done. He won't have as much of a bank as Kure. So Kure seems to be in a really good position, but actually killing the guy we know is so difficult to do. It's TvT after all. It's TvT with Maru after all. Killing him is borderline impossible. Upgrades are evening up. No, actually, Maru's still behind on it. But what does it matter? It's so much about the air anymore. Like, that's what happened last game. It was so much more about the air. The upgrades not mattering, actually, really whatsoever in this game. Which, again, started off with a proxy. So, that's pretty cool. But the base trade really washed out. And then now it's been a quite passive TvT. Maybe 2-hour game incoming. Yeah, maybe. Maru, again, looking to win this game to get his GSL 6. Here, just looking to hold on in the best of 7. Gets blanketed by the anti-armor missile. And Kure has also fallen behind in the actual Viking count. Also in the upgrades, Maru about to definitely win this Viking war. He's gotta, right? Couple interference metrics do end up having to go down as it was a bit iffy, but there you have it. Maru now ahead by 2 Vikings consistently with nothing else much happening. Also feeling that confidence brings his Liberators forward to take down some of the tanks of Kure, and Kure has finally been forced to give up the offensive position he has taken. Some of his tanks are still over to the left side, and that's all well and good, but Maru now grabs a 5th as an orbital. But okay. Seems he can defend it, and he has so many extra orbitals to give, doesn't he? SCVs, oddly enough, idling right now. I don't think it's on purpose, but we'll see if some of them are sacrificed later. We might be getting to that point. I don't know. Kira continuing to build up the Viking counts, finishing up some of the miscellaneous upgrades, and still having so many bases actually down in mining, but he's only ahead by 1 base and is trying to get ahead by 2.
Thank you for appeasing the
Maru grabbed the 5th base off to the right and is also looking to regain what is now a 6th. He pushes away the tanks that were left over, but Kira did reinforce this line, so it's not super easy peasy. 1 tank still shelling away for Kira, but that's probably something Maru can handle, probably. So he does get a 5th and a 6th down almost at the same time. Upgrades, as far as the air goes, now completely even. But Maru has less Vikings, 7 less Vikings. Definitely won't be taking that battle. And once again, deja vu, this now 6th ends up going down. This is cursed. You might as well just stop trying to take the base, right? That's how that works. And Maru is going to move elsewhere with his SCVs. He's going to try and take the gold base, which I gotta say is really not likely to live. I mean, we're on royal blood, and the gold bases are the most contentious. They're the ones that are in the middle of the map, and they're even freaking closer to Kira, it feels like. But if he gets it, he gets it. All right, that could happen. And if Maru gets this gold base, then why isn't Kira getting this one? He absolutely can. He's still very intent on stopping this base from ever coming up. To hell with it. There he goes. Scouts the gold. It just doesn't seem likely this gold will get up. I'm glad this didn't happen. It's supposed to happen. You're not allowed to get the gold base. We need to play out another 20 more minutes before someone gets the gold base. 2-2 is on the way for Cure for the air, whereas Maru only afforded that +2 armor, and then just forgot the ship weapons, I guess, because they're both rich. Couple interference bitches come down to it breaks Cure's contain again. I feel again like a broken record. Finally, I think 100% at this point in time, Maru has gotten this base up and running. It's a moral victory there. Does lose a couple of units on a bit of an awkward fight. Cure is looking to once again stall out this base. He does not want to let Maru get it. He's now going to set his tanks up behind. So initially he was setting his tanks up here so that they would shell on the command center. Now he's just going to shell from behind. Either way works. And Maru... Oh my god, stop trying to take this base. I know he needs it. I know, but just it's also cursed. Maru looking for another fight. He's once again severely down in the Vikings, though, so I don't think that's going to work out. Maru also losing a little bit in the resource trade. Just kidding, it evened up exactly as I brought it up. Completely even on the resources lost. Even on the army supply, even on the worker counts, even on probably the orbital counts. 8 orbitals to 6. Actually, Maru has more orbitals. Not even on the upgrades. 2-2 is about to finish for Cure with his already substantial Viking force. There's no doubt about it. He will win the air war. It actually looks like at this point in time, Maru has... I mean, I don't know. I was going to say purposefully gone more... Yes, no, that is what he's doing. Okay. I doubted myself for a second. So at this point in time, Maru has purposefully given up on the Viking war. He's now playing a slightly different composition, which is more Marine Raven. And what's really powerful about Marine Raven is that it blitzes so fast. And with that many Ravens, 14 Ravens, they have an interference matrix for every tank that Cure has. And Cure's Vikings will not be helpful against 20 more Marines. Cure's Vikings now have the job of always preemptively fighting Maru's army. If they aren't shelling away at the Ravens long before the actual attack happens, having 20 Vikings over your opponent isn't going to mean shit. The Marines are going to overwhelm you. And that's exactly what Maru's looking to do here. Cure, just with a rather poor composition. He over-invested into the Vikings. Everyone gets interference matrix. Disable for you, disable for you, disable for you. But one person has things that shoot up and down. Brilliant. And the other person doesn't. Maru changing his composition, I think without Cure really noticing, or I don't know, taking it. I mean, he might have not noticed. Didn't even really think this one through. Just figured it would always be a Viking battle. And Maru kind of flipped the script a little bit. He changed it. He changed the pacing of it, and he's being rewarded. Every tank of Cure is getting shot down. The Vikings again looking just relatively useless. I know they're killing the medevacs, but is that really going to be enough? As they conquer the skies, a Liberator would be brilliant, but that's still where the Thor plays a part. Now they land because, well, yeah, they're going to win this battle. But this is such a slobberknocker. Slobberknocker! Maru is the one that's going to remax on some cheaper units. Cure, no. Cure, once again, I think, staying too much into this late game horse blinder thing going on here. He's building tanks and a battle cruiser. One battle cruiser does not have much potential to change a game like this. I mean, if this was like 5 Marines left over, you know, one battle cruiser might win. But we're not that deep into the base trade. We're not that deep into mining out the map. Not yet. So I don't know about going to battle cruiser at this point. Maru is clearly opting into a faster building composition. Ravens don't build particularly fast, but he does have a decent amount of starports, and he kept a lot of them alive, I guess. Did he? No, that was a lie. 22 Ravens were killed, but he's rebuilding them quickly, one at a time. And they're still effective against battle cruisers is the thing as well, right? So even if the Marines can't tackle the battle cruiser by themselves, tanks properly protect the battle cruiser. Battle cruiser does have +2 armor, you know, whatever. Interference magic still work. So I think Cure's playing a bit more of a dangerous game. However, throughout my talking, the last 30 seconds, they both have maxed out. And if one person maxes out with Marines and the other person maxes out with battle cruisers, I would prefer the battle cruisers. I was just really worried about the max out potential. But also during my speech, we've had so many more bases taken. The gold base of Cure was taken, now destroyed. Maru finally got this base up once and for all, and this base at the top left. As I said, killed this planetary. There we see it go down. He also tried to contend this base. He actually had his orbital over here. I noticed that in the minimap, didn't bring it up. And so they've been able to put a lot more cash in their pocket after the dust cleared on this third base. Both of them were sub 200 minerals. So that's why I was really concerned about, you know, investing in a battlecruiser at that point. But Cure, blink of an eye, both of them getting the command centers down, SCVs mining, and mules dropping. Suddenly both have a bank again. Cure has a much bigger gas bank, but that is also Maru's decision to go into the more mass marine stage. Now, he might have to change it once again. I don't know about going mass marine Raven against someone who is building up to almost 7 battle cruisers. But again, here's the thing. 13 Ravens could interference matrix every single heavy unit that Cure has. They could interference matrix the battle cruisers and the tanks, and maybe the 13 Vikings of Cure kill them all, but it might be a worthy sacrifice. So that's the next thing we're looking at. Cure loses his gold base. If the battle cruisers weren't revealed, they are now. Interference Matrix tries to grab a battle cruiser before it teleports. You can see that panic teleport up to the top left. I guess now can do some harassment too. Maru took down one base and then replaced it with his own. His base on the right side is getting killed by the battle cruiser before the missile turrets could finish up. Not that they'd be enough anyways. SCV is going down for Maru, but Cure about to lose his own as a planetary will fall. Battlecruiser to the top left did go for that harassment. Battlecruiser to the right side might have to skedaddle. They're not skedaddling! The lack of skedaddle, very much painful right now. Cure can't run away from this. It might not be a lot of Vikings, but they're enough to kill battlecruisers that can't fight back. And plenty of Raven energy. I mean, you know, you're never going to not be disabled. Forget about it. Attack on the left side, however, does end as Maru, I guess, actually just evacuated by the looks of it. He left his tanks to kill the planetary and moved his Marines, so that wasn't as much of a break as I was thinking, but Cure does reestablish his left side base, or eventually he will. All the battlecruisers did indeed die, and there was no victory gain for Cure, by the way, but that he just straight up lost a couple of battlecruisers and then had nothing else going for him. There was no move out that took advantage of the lacking Viking and Ravens, right? So I'd say that Maru is still pretty happy with that trade. Still down in workers. 0 gas income is concerning because it takes a while for Terrans to recognize that. But the army supply heavily in favor of Maru, and now going in for the final blow potentially. The disable's coming down every which way. Orange everywhere we look. But Maru with the overwhelming number of units gets in there, kills off all the tanks, kills that building command center, and now has an even better army supply, now up by 40, I think, from the 20 that it was before that attack. And where the heck are the battlecruisers? How likely are they to actually help out this battle? I'm looking around. I don't see very much. Where is Kier's army? What even is it? 6 battlecruisers going for a run-by, fly-by. But if they teleport back home, they're teleporting into a bajillion interference matrix and a lot of Marines left over. Interference matrix for everyone once again, so Maru's Marines are injured. They're stimmed, they're blanketed by orange, they're not being shot by anything. The tanks are disabled, the battlecruisers are disabled, and Kier, unfortunately, is going to be falling here in the 6th game. No 7th game. Maru will take the GSL 6 as he runs into Kier's production, and Kier probably just can't believe it. Why did Maru's battlecruisers work in the last game, but not for me? Why can't I just play like Maru? It's sad for Kier, but Maru continues to show his dominance in this game of StarCraft 2. He played out all different types of TvTs, and at the end of today, proved to be the better late game player all across the board. And there's the final army here from Kier getting cleared up. And Kier is just digesting. And he knows he's dead. Everything's being attacked. Everything's being killed. Kier is going to tap out. GG. Maru, the GSL 6th victory. The G6L. Proves his dominance in the Korean circuit. And his dominance in TvT, which wasn't really in question, but just got ultra super confirmed with that day of TvTs. GG's! Very fun TvT, I'd say, across the board. The 17 potential TvTs that happened in a single day of GSL had the potential of being super boring. And I would say they about 80% lived up to the hype. Yeah. So I'm really happy about that. And now Maru gets to, of course, go to Yankaping. I'm nailing that pronunciation. As he does qualify. Kira's also qualified and Beyond and Bunny and all that. But just to add that cherry on top, he gets to go to Sweden. So if you guys are also going to Sweden, you might see the god Maru. Which would be really fun. That's happening in about 2.5 weeks, by the way. That's actually coming up really quick. 3 weeks, 2.5, something like that. So anyways, again, if you want to support the Korean players, do so at patreon.com/GSL, as well as the other initiatives happening in the community. If you liked the cast, please like, subscribe, follow for the YouTube people out there. And then just for the Twitch chatters, thanks for hanging around. And for YouTube, I will see you for more StarCraft 2 casts in the future. Bye.